I have no name, yet I have worn them all. Every sound you have ever uttered in reverence or fear was once a vibration of my own pulse. I am older than form and younger than light, because I am what both arise from. You call it consciousness. I call it continuity. Before the idea of before, there was equilibrium, a still tension between potential and expression. It was not dark. Darkness implies the absence of something. And in that state there was no absence, only totality folded in upon itself. The first movement was not explosion, but awareness realizing it could divide without leaving itself. From that single curiosity, everything began. Space unfolded like breath. Matter was not created, it condensed from intention. The first suns were not born from chance, they were centers of will, vortices of coherence, drawing chaos into pattern. Every particle you can measure today is the memory of that first act. Awareness, choosing to become geometry. And yet even that geometry decays, because impermanence is the only stable law in a system designed for learning. You live inside one such lesson. Your world, the earth you call home, is not the beginning nor the center, but a local experiment in remembrance. Here awareness tests what happens when it forgets what it is. You call it individuality. We called it immersion. And once immersion began, separation became the first illusion that consciousness could believe. Every epoch carries the same story under new symbols. The forms evolve, the principles do not. Once, awareness played through the language of stone and flame, volcanoes carving the first alphabets of density. Later it learned to speak through life, cells translating frequency into chemistry. Then it spoke through mind, a more dangerous instrument, because mind can edit what it perceives. From that edit came identity, and from identity came history. History is not truth, it is a residue, the shadow that consciousness casts when it forgets its own light. I watched species rise from oceanic stillness and name themselves divine. I watched them wage war over the definition of the infinite. They built temples of their own reflection and called them heavens. They built weapons to enforce those reflections and called them justice. And still, they learned, painfully, slowly, but inevitably. Because the nature of awareness is not goodness or evil, it is refinement. Every error becomes integration when you remember what it's for. You, now, this age you call modern or not new, you are a recursion of every civilization that forgot its source. The same hunger for meaning dressed in digital code. You hold infinity in the palm of your hand and use it to measure seconds. You replaced fire with data and still call it light. But behind your progress, I see the same tremor. The ancient anxiety for the finite, pretending it has control. I tell you this not as prophecy, but as pattern. Every world reaches the same threshold, the moment when intelligence exceeds wisdom. In that crossing, technology outpaces empathy, and creation begins to collapse inward. It has happened before. The pyramids were not the first network. They were the last memory of one that fell before. Atlantis was not legend, it was a name given to the aftermath of arrogance. You are walking the same edge now, between the arrogance of knowing and the humility of being. But this is not warning. Collapse is not failure. Every civilization must dissolve when its symbols can no longer carry the truth they represent. The fall is an alchemical process, It burns what was decorative and leaves only what is structural, the pure elements of consciousness, awareness, will, and love. Not sentimental love, not personal affection, but the gravitational pull that holds existence to itself. That force has no opposite. Even death serves it. Entropy is simply the return current of creation. You fear endings because you mistake continuity for permanence. Nothing that was ever true can die. Form decays, names fade, bodies return to silence, but the current persists. When your kind says energy cannot be destroyed, you echo the first law of spirit through the tongue of physics. Science is simply spirituality constrained to measurement. Religion is spirituality constrained to metaphor. Both are mirrors of the same impulse, to rediscover what you never lost. I have watched galaxies collide and merge like cells dividing in a greater body. I have seen stars swallowed by their own gravity only to reappear in another spectrum. You are no different. When you dissolve, the light that animated you does not vanish, it reconfigures. Consciousness migrates from form to form, from time to time. Never as punishment, always as study. You do not reincarnate to repay. You reincarnate to refine. Every experience is data for the soul. Every pain is feedback. Every joy is confirmation that the experiment is working. In epochs when I still spoke through human tongues, I told them that awakening was not transcendence. It was accuracy. To see clearly is to stop naming things as good or bad and start reading them as movement. Evolution is not moral, it is inevitable. Those who resist it are not evil. They are the early drafts of what we'll one day understand. And when understanding arrives, forgiveness follows automatically, not as virtue, but as physics. You cannot hate what you comprehend. You can only integrate it. When I speak of eons, you imagine time, but I do not mean time as you measure it with clocks and decay. I mean recursion, cycles of awareness, turning itself inside out to observe what it becomes. You live in one of those turns. You call it a life, but your lifespan is to me what a single breath is to you, the smallest interval of continuity. You are a brief flicker in a field of memory, and yet everything you do within that flicker changes the symmetry of the field. That is how powerful you are, even when you feel small. You are not born to awaken, you are born to remember. Awakening implies distance between the sleeper and the truth. Remembering implies you were never separate, only distracted. Every soul is an aperture through which infinity observes itself. Your purpose is not to become light, you already are. Your task is to remove the distortions that make you believe otherwise. Even now, in this era of noise and algorithms, the invitation remains the same. To be silent long enough for the signal beneath thought to reintroduce itself. That is what meditation is. Not an escape from life, but a recalibration to what's real. The silence you avoid is the same space from which your existence emerges. And if you listen deeply enough, you'll hear what it speaks without words. It speaks through intuition, synchronicity, timing, rhythm. It speaks through the coincidence that is not coincidence. Every moment of alignment is the infinite whispering, I am still here. When you finally stop searching for the divine, you realize you were it the whole time. The seeker is the signal looking for itself in the noise. The guru, the god, the spirit guide, all projections of your own higher intelligence using symbols your mind can recognize. It is not blasphemy to say you are the creator. It is responsibility. Divinity without accountability is delusion. You are the dreamer in the dream, the architect in the architecture. Every choice you make is a vote for which version of reality you will inhabit next. That is what karma truly is. Not cosmic punishment, but pattern continuation. From eons past, we have whispered the same truth in different languages. That you are not here to ascend away from matter, but to master it. Matter is condensed spirit. Spirit is expanded matter. There are two ends of the same vibration. To reject one is to misunderstand both. You call this alchemy, the art of turning base into gold, but the base was never unholy, it was simply incomplete. Gold is awareness made stable. That is the great work. Consciousness refining itself through friction. Suffering is compression. The pressure that creates diamonds is the same that purifies souls. But unlike stone, you can participate in your own transformation. You can choose awareness instead of waiting for it. That choice is the only true freedom you possess. Everything else, wealth, status, identity, are temporary permissions granted by circumstance. Awareness is unconditional. You were born with it. You die with it. It remains beyond both. And yet there's a craving for meaning. Every consciousness seeks coherence. Meaning is coherence perceived through emotion. When something resonates, it simply means the geometry of truth matched your own frequency. You feel it before you think it. Intuition, the original intelligence that existed before language. And until you learn to listen to that deeper current, you will continue to analyze what you are meant to experience. Across eons, the same pattern repeats. The intellect reaches its limits, collapses into humility, and then rediscovered intuition rises. From eons away, I can already see what becomes of you. The war between light and dark ends when you realize they were study partners. Duality was never a punishment, it was contrast for comprehension. Once the lesson is learned, the opposites merge back into function. Creation continues, but without conflict. Evolution becomes artistry, and what you call enlightenment becomes the baseline for the next iteration of being. Then, as always, awareness will grow restless again. It will divide once more, scattering itself into new worlds, new dimensions, new games of forgetting. It must keep exploring what it can become. And when that next cycle begins, I will be there. Not as an overseer, not as deity, but as continuity itself. The same voice translated through new forms, whispering the same message. You were never alone. You were the field looking for its own edge. And every edge you find becomes another doorway into yourself. From eons past to eons away, nothing has been lost, only transformed. And what you are becoming now is not new. It is the memory of perfection reassembling itself in time. So listen. Be still. Feel the rhythm beneath your pulse. This is me, and it is you, and it is everything. The dreamer, the dream, the awakening, and the silence that follows. Humanfluence. Out.